welcome to Hardcore Enduro, where it's all about getting out, riding the hard stuff. I'm George, the guy behind the bars, and the voice behind the mic. Today, we're gonna be talking about tires. These are some of the gummy tires that I've used for my Hard Enduro races, and just how they perform for me, and how they've worn riding on them. And just a little bit of history about the evolution of how I've gone with getting better traction on Hard Enduro races with not only tires, but the mousse setup here and how I've evolved on my mousse setup. So I haven't been running mousses that long, but I've come a long ways as far as getting a good traction, good setup for the tire. So I'll explain all that. Let's do it. So when you first get a mousse, now this is a mousse for the front tire. I didn't have a fresh one for the rear, but essentially the same, except the rear tire is bigger. And so when you buy a mousse, if y'all don't know, like I came from tubed and tubeless, and then I finally jumped to mousse. So I was kind of learning. I didn't know a lot about them, but you're gonna get this mousse. It's just a kind of a dense foam core that goes into your tire, and then you mount this on the rim. And you can buy these different brands, different hardnesses or thicknesses as well. And it just comes like this, very plain. And for running desert stuff, hard races or fast races, motocross, stuff like that, you could leave it just as is, and you're only using this like it is. You're not drilling it out or anything. But for Hard Enduro, you got to do something a little bit different. So let me get the Hard Enduro tire or mousse in here. So this is my first attempt at drilling out a mousse that I used last year on the Donner, and I used a 1-inch hole, and I drilled it every 2 inches. So every 2 inches, put a 1-inch hole. When you do it, first drill it out, they are round. As you run the tire, it starts squishing down, collapsing in on itself. But what that hole does just allows a little bit more give to the mousse. You really want to get this tire feeling like it's down to 1 PSI, 2 PSI. So that tire, when you're riding, is going to be flat. You'll go in, it'll look like a flat tire, and sometimes it'll feel like a flat tire. So I drill this out 1 inch every 2 inches, and it wasn't enough. I didn't have any break-in on this tire. So this is fresh out of the box. I put a fresh tire on there. That was that Michelin Extreme, and it still felt probably around 6 PSI, which on Hard Enduro Extreme is too much. You really got to get that tire filling down to that 1, 2 PSI. Really, that needs to get that flat feel to that tire. So from there, I've done this. So I've gone from that mousse. So I've stepped it up to this style right here. So I've got a 1-inch hole every inch, all the way around. And not only I did that, but now I drill this out and I put time on the mousse. So I'll go trail ride and I'll get this mousse belt anywhere from 10 to 20 hours, depending on how I'm able to ride. But like a 15-hour mousse, it starts to really break in. You can still, it still has some shape to it. I've had probably about 25, 30 hours on this bib right here, and it still has some shape to it. And this is, I think, ready to go again. I think I'll use this mousse right here. I won't get another one. I'll use this one for the Donner, and I think it's going to do much better than last year. Now, if I did get a new one, if I'm doing it fresh out of the box, fresh on the tire, straight into the race without any break-in, what I would do, I still do this drill here, but I'm going to do some more through here. So I'm going to drill it maybe through the top like that. Make like this Swiss cheese kind of tire, so it really is spongy and can give weight. The tires do have some resistance right here, so when that squishes down, the tire is pushing back itself, and then with that, you know, with the foam here, it's pushing back. But to get a fresh mousse on a fresh race, fresh tire, you got to drill it out even more. For Hard Enduro, for the extreme Hard Enduro, for desert racing, any fast racing track, you don't want to do this because it makes it like a flat tire, and you don't need that. Hare and hounds, you don't need this. You know, you don't have any major hard obstacles to go up. You're going really fast. Hard Enduro, you're going slow, very slow, like you're dead stop a lot of times. So you need that tire to really squish down a wrap around obstacle, like how rock crawlers do when they have their Jeep trails you know, the king of the hammers, any kind of rock crawling, you know, those tires really flex and wrap around the rocks to get over them. So that's the same concept for hard enduro. All right, so that's the mousse setup. I've come a long ways. I really like having this, so about 15 hours on the mousse, drilled out 1 inch every inch, so it's an inch hole every inch. You could go even bigger, so I might go even like 1.25 inches, something like that. So it's really gonna have a lot more grab or squish down, flex. So I might do that. And you get those foam hole drills on Amazon. They're cheap, they're not expensive, and you do it yourself. All right, back to the tires. All right, we got 4 good, solid hard enduro tires right here. First off though, I'm gonna start with this. This is the IRC VE33S. It's been a very good tire for my desert riding and big hill climbing kind of tire. It's not a true gummy, it's a little bit harder compound, not as hard as a track tire. It's like a hybrid between one of these softer gummies to something not quite as hard. I mean, it's just good in between. Great wear pattern, and it's really lasted a long time. All these tires have actually, each tire here has lasted about 30 hours, 25 hours, depending on how much I've wanted to ride it. And I have been impressed. Like, these tires just keep grabbing and they're staying good on the bike. So first off, VE33S, really big knobs, has a really large knob here. Let me compare this up here to be a little better. All right, we'll get these 4 tires here side by side. You really get a good visual comparison between the tires here. First off, the tire size. When you go to buy hard enduro tires or any dirt bike tires, you're always looking at tire size. So the IRC, this is the VE33S, this is the JX-8. They come in a 110, 118. And the 110s are noticeably skinnier than this Battlecross from Bridgestone, this Battlecross E50, and then you have this Michelin Extreme coming to 140, 80. And the 140 is just looking here is much fatter than the 110s. And that is one big complaint I've had about the JX-8 from IRC and even the VE33S, is that they're a little skinny. And when you really run them flat, this is hard enduro, y'all, so you're gonna run those tires really flat, even if you're running a tubeless system. I'm running mousses. You're gonna drill those mousses out, get those mousses so that tire is running really kind of flat. And you hear Billy Bolt and Manuel Begler, Cody Webb, you know, they're all running that tire, so it's almost like a flat tire. And the 140s are visibly wider, fatter than the 110s. So tire size wise, I prefer the 140. So the Michelin Extreme to the Battlecross E50 have that tire size that I like. Now there's some other brands out there, I haven't tried them all, that also come in 140s. I like to see IRC, because I do like IRC, come in a 140. In fact, I want this JX-8 in a 140. You put this JX-8 in a 140, I think this tire is going to be one of the top tires in the industry. So that's tire size. Softness, so when it comes to a gummy, it is just amazing. If you guys haven't ever got a gummy tire, when you go to grab this tire and feel the flex of each knob, it is truly amazing how flexible and how soft this rubber compound is on the gummy tires. Now, as far as overall softness, when you get it out of the box, the JX-8 is going to have the softest knob tire. It has a lot of flexion. These knobs really flex. Like I said, each tire has about 25-30 hours on it now, so they've been worn off. And they're not as, well, they're still really soft, but out of the box, they are just like so squishy soft. Probably JX-8 is number 1. It's probably a good tie between the Battlecross E50 and the Michelin Extreme. And then last would be the the EV33S from IRC. So you're gonna have softest JX-8, maybe probably the E50 next softest, Michelin Extreme, and then the VE33S. When you're looking to get a gummy tire, you're looking at how big, you know, your footprint is of that tread, and then how soft that tire is that can wrap around an obstacle, rock, or log. So there's a lot of things to think about, but the softest tire would be the JX-8 33S. Now they make an IOX, or what is it, IX09. That is the same tire, just got a little softer sidewall, so it's going to have a little bit more squish to it. And I am going to be running that for this year's Donner, and we'll see how that does. Now this Michelin Extreme I've run at Donner last year, and I didn't have the best results, but I think that was from the mousse. My mousse, evolution of mousses has changed from when I first ran this to what I'm running now. The last race I did was Moab, and I ran that on this tire here. So this Michelin Extreme I used on the Donner Hard Enduro, if you saw my video last year. The JX-8 I just used a grinding stone. The Battlecross E50 I used at Moab, the Moab Hard Enduro. And then this VE33S I used at King of the Motos. Now each race has a little bit different terrain, and I think I got King of the Motos right with this tire, this VE33S. King of the Motos, a lot of sandy hills and some big kind of sandy climbs. Some rocks through there, but you got sand dunes and out desert stuff. There's no logs, no trees or anything like that, just some sandy rocks. I think that was a good tire. It's got the big knobs, the very tall knobs, if you can see, very, very tall knobs here. So there's dune climbing, hill climbing. This is going to grab a lot, and the IRC lines them up like a paddle, so they're all kind of in a line, kind of like the M5B, where it creates this kind of scoop like a paddle, sand paddle tire. So I think that was the right tire for King of the Motos. If I go again next year, I'll probably get back, do this VE33S again. Grinding stone, I used JX-8. Another one where IRC does this rib-like tread pattern here, so it makes like a sand paddle. Grinding stone does have some, it's out there, it's got a lot of sand, dune sand, like through the transfer sections, and then it goes into straight sandstone rock. And you can see how it's worn here. These are also tall knobs, and these knobs flex up, and you really get a lot of surface traction right here at the top of the knob here. So I think this was a good tire as well, grinding stone. This is one of my favorite tires, so I do like JX-8. I ran it last year at Silver Kings. The Silver Kings last year, I did not drill out my mousse at all, just had a solid mousse that was fresh, way too stiff. So I had a poor traction at Silver Kings. You saw the prologue, I got stuck in the first log of the prologue because my tire couldn't wrap around it, but I've learned a lot since then, and I do believe this was a good tire at Grinding Stone. Maybe Prologue Day would have ran the VE33S Prologue Day just because it has that one full gas hill that was just all out hill climb, and this would have done better. It has the bigger knobs, taller knobs than the JX-8. So when I'm talking about big knobs here, you can see the difference here. The Michelin Extreme, see from the base right here how fat that is, how thick that is, even this way how thick it is. Those are really fat knobs, which are strong, have less likely to roll and bend on you. If you go to JX-8 here, there's thin knobs, and so these knobs then when they're riding, they have more chance to roll back, and that's why you get a lot of these roll back. And it creates a lot of surface area here. It's good, and the sand is soft, so it'll go through the sand, but when it's hard rock, it's rolling back. And when it rolls back, it causes this tire to bend in. So I don't know, on hard surfaces, you'd have to get like a macro camera, video camera, slow-mo, and see how this is rolling on hard surfaces. The Michelin Extreme doesn't have as much roll to it because these are just so fat. My biggest complaint for the E50 here is that these knobs are very small. They're small. They're, of all the 4 tires here, the E50 has the smallest knobs. And there's a couple things to that I didn't realize, but I see it now. The small knobs, you look at the top of the knob, so when that wears away, you only got about 1/8 inch of tread that's still kind of there, flat on top. The JX-8 wears away and you got almost like a little over 1/4 inch that's still flat on top here that is worn away to 1/4 inch, whereas you look at the Michelin Extreme, it's worn away, but you still have a 1/2 inch or more of flat tread here. That maybe on the rocks is getting better traction. I'm not a professional, y'all, but I'm just seeing the wear pattern and how these tires have performed. And like I said, they all have about 30 hours on them, so all about the same amount of hours. Go to JX-8, I mean the VE33S, and it is large knobs. Now it's softer compound too. Some of these knobs have started to chunk out a little bit. You can just see how they're starting to rip apart here. That's all right. As amount of hours I've had on these tires, you know, you're not expecting them to be perfect. But the wear pattern has held up on these 3 gummies here. A little bit harder compound, just like my M5B. That's the hard hill climbing tire. Those knobs are hard, so they don't have a lot of flex, and so when it starts to rip and grab, especially when you go over to rocky terrain, rocky hill climbs, you know, these knobs will just start ripping right off. Whereas these softer compounds, they're just wearing away. And because they don't rip off here, you're still getting a lot of surface area grabbing here. And that's the one thing I can think of. You still get a lot of surface. So when this wraps, folds back like that when you're riding, it's still a wide, big portion here that's getting contact with the ground, and you're getting some good traction, I believe. All right, one thing I did want to point out here is I just changed the lighting. You can see it. Because these are a little bit thicker knobs, very comparable to the thickness of the VE33S here. They're doing kind of the same thing, just not as bad. Get the freaking camera up here. All right, so you can see how they're just starting to kind of maybe chunk or rip a little bit. Just a little bit. I don't know if you can, how well that turns up. See there, you can see just ripping a little bit. And I think that's because it is the fatter knob here, whereas you got these skinnier knobs, they're able to flex a little bit more. And I don't know if it's the rubber compound, but just not as much ripping going on. You see, it's just kind of a nice even wear on those knobs. Same as this Battlecross E50 here, just a nice even wear. You see that even wear pattern right there. Nothing's chunking, nothing looks like it's ripping off here. Now when it comes to the carcass of the bike here, an actual just carcass itself, all that, not the knobs, but the inside, underside part, the flat stuff, that's where you get a lot of the flexion here. So out of the box here, the 140s, because they are wider, and that's one thing, the 140 Michelin and then the E50, because there's a lot of empty space, you know, there's not as many knobs, and the knobs here are really small. What that is going to allow is a lot more tire flexion. You see how that can just fold in on itself here? The Michelin Extreme and the E50 really can fold in on themselves because there's not a lot of hard extra rubber here holding it back, and there's a lot of empty space, so that allows it to really go in. If you go the JX-8, it's soft, but having this little rib pattern here makes it a kind of a strong point here. So it folds that way, but not as well this way, whereas these little wider tires, they fold a little bit more inside. I don't know if that makes sense to y'all. So I'm pushing here. It is still pretty soft. I mean, I'm not pushing too hard. None of these, but you can just see how when the wider tire, the 140s, when it folds in, it just makes this massive footprint to get traction, a lot more than the JX-8. Now the VE33S, it is a little bit harder tire, and so it doesn't have near deflection here. See, I'm pushing in, and it's just not nearly as much as this one. JX-8. JX-8's still really soft. I've been like, this is a good tire. It just needs to be fatter. This tire needs to be that fat, and I think this would be number one in my book. I'd say. All right, y'all. So final thoughts. VE33S, probably one of my go-tos just for all-around trail riding. It's not a pure gummy, so it's gonna last a little bit longer. It's not an expensive tire either. I think it's just over $100 for the tire. Good for hill climbing. I do a lot of big hill climbs in Southern California here, out in the desert. Jawbone, Spangler, they just got some massive sandy hills, and the big knobs, big paddle-like knobs, are really helping that. So this is probably my go-to. I run this tire more than any other tire here. I like it, so I recommend it for anyone else that wants a good all-around trail tire. This Battlecross E50, I had mixed feelings just coming from an IRC tire that has the bigger knobs. As far as hill climbing, I wouldn't run this in Jawbone. I wouldn't run it out Barren Ridge, where I do a lot of riding, just huge, massive, sandy hill climbs. I don't think this tire would do that well there. But if you're gonna run more foresty, loamy, rock terrain, I think this is gonna be a good tire for you. Without any big hill climbs, I'm not a professional, I'm an amateur, so I do like to tackle a big hill though. I'm not afraid of them. But I think, like, I did this in Moab. I think this tire worked out great in Moab. We watched that Moab, my Hard Enduro there. I had a really good traction, so this did really good on that style riding with no major hill climbs and just a lot of chunky step-up rocks and stuff like that. And there wasn't any logs there, but I'm sure this would still do good on logs too. A little bit more expensive. I think this was like $150 for the tire, so a little bit more pricey. I would only run this on a certain race day. I wouldn't do this as an everyday rider. All right, next is the JX-8. This is one of my favorites for an all-around hard enduro tire. It is got the little bit stiffer sidewall than the IX-09. I think on a race day, Donner coming up, I'm gonna do the IX-09. It's gonna have a little bit more give in the sidewall, and there's a lot of logs across and a lot of rocks. You got the slab section, the granite slab section that gets me every time still. But I think the IX-09 with my new mousse setup that I do, really soft mousse, is really gonna get good traction here. Donner does have that one big hill climb that I didn't do, even though I only made 2 attempts. I think the 3rd attempt I would have got it. I would have been 3rd gear pin. I think I would have got the hill. I've done bigger hills than that all the time in Barren Ridge and Jawbone, so I think I'll be able to get that this year. But I'm gonna run a JX-8, good tire, cheap tire too. I think it was like $108. So IRC is doing a good job keeping the price of the tires down, and I hope they don't jump up to that $150, $160 barrier. And then last, this Michelin Extreme here. Now this is the tire that Matty Lettbecker just won on the Erzberg Rodeo. He's won it 3 years in a row now, so you can't say this isn't a good tire, because Manny wouldn't be running it if it wasn't gonna help him win. So definitely a good tire. Now one thing, it is expensive, so I don't think I could run this every race. I think I'd go back to the IX-09 or something like that, just because on a budget, you know, I'm not getting free tires here. So, but it's been a good tire. I do love the size of it, the 140. Last year I had the wrong setup, I think, with my mousse, and that was not helping this tire perform like it should be. When you buy this tire out of the box, one thing is crazy. It has some kind of surface compound on it or something. It's sticky. Like, out of all the 4 tires I got there, out of the box, it's almost like fly paper. You put your finger there, and it's like, it feels like it's sticking. So they've added something to this that's really a fresh tire. It is not like any tire I've ever felt. It just has this stick feel to it. It has held up great. It's got 30 hours. I actually did a lot of trail riding after the Donner Hard Enduro that I did. Plus I even ran some Hare and Hounds, I think the end of the season. So it held up good. I can't say enough. It was a good tire, expensive though. And I don't know if I'll run maybe one race a year, I think. I don't know. I would like to try it again with a better mousse setup. So maybe I'll do that. But anyways, all right, y'all, we're gonna bring this video to an end. Hope you got some out of it. This is my tire review. I'm still learning quite a bit, and I hope you got some out of it. I hope you're able to not just stick with one tire brand. Try some different tire brands out there. Even the brand, try the different tires they have within the brand, and start playing around with the air pressures, with the mousse. I think you're gonna find you're gonna get a lot better rides out of your, if you're starting to do more hard terrain, or even if you're doing the same terrain that you've been riding, your rides are gonna get more enjoyable. You're gonna get, you know, do better on them. So I recommend it because I've really enjoyed it too. If you haven't already, check out hardcoreenduro.com. I got some shirts there and some hats and stuff like that. I love these shirts. I just got this one in. It's a tri-blend from Next Level, and it is just so soft, so comfortable. I love the color. The quality of them is just fantastic, and check it out if you want. But until next video comes out, get out, ride, and get some.